Greetings, this is Skyler Saunders saying, what's current? RNC, forgive me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard this from a great man, and I'm sure a lot of other people have said this in the past. That great man was Troy Star Terrain, and he said, politics is the dirtiest game. It's dirtier than the mafia, gangs, everything you can think of, because the way it is presented. And I have 0 people in here right now and 0 likes. And I had 773 views by the end of yesterday's show. So I may not get that many this time, but we'll see what happens. This is all experiment. It's all experimental. But anyway, so we have the RNC, the Republican National Convention. And you have, former detractors and people that, denounce Trump's rhetoric or his views or his actions. Like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, totally different era now. I don't know if Nikki Haley was kind of grinding her teeth while she was trying to say the words that were coming out of her mouth. She was like, it's Donald Trump, he's gonna be the next president. Let's make him president again. Like it just seemed like she was trying to bite back bile that was springing up from her gut. DeSantis was like a comedian. He was saying, the different, send Biden back to the basement and back to his basement and send Trump back to the White House. Like he was saying, he was getting more applause. I think he had a closer affinity to Trump than Nikki Haley, even though she was in his cabinet. I don't think DeSantis was in his cabinet at all. But I could be wrong. Please forgive me, and please, correct me if I'm wrong. I am wrong in many circumstances, many ideas. But yeah, so they just it was a weird situation. It was very strange. And a side note for me, if you could just listen to my show, that'd be great until I get the software to get, to get a banner up or something like that for the show, because my eyes blink too much. I've noticed that during the show. I'm just so into the show that I don't even realize how many times my eyes blink. I'm going to try to regulate that this particular show and the shows thereafter. But just bear with me. I appreciate those that, viewed and stayed in and liked and subscribed. I appreciate that. But, I know my blinking is kind of distracting. So if you could just listen to the show. There's nothing more. There's no really other visuals or anything you have to see except my handsome face. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But that's the gist of it. Nikki Haley was like this. She was like, she could be a flip-flopper. If you wanted to call flip-floppers and back in politics back 20 years ago with John Kerry calling him a flip-flopper, she's definitely a flip-flopper in that way, because she at first didn't endorse Trump before his election to be president. Then when she was in his cabinet during his presidency, that was a slip. I don't know if it was Freudian, but it was definitely a slip. But during his presidency, she was obviously an ally to him. She was the ambassador for the United Nations. So after that, during the J6, riots and all that happened, then it just got, she was like, one of her quotes was, to say I'm angry is an understatement. She was directing her anger at President Trump. And then, he goes back and, he runs for president, and they're locked in. She's the last woman standing. She was the last person to go against him. And then all of a sudden in May, she was like, yeah, I'm for Trump. Like, I said jokingly in a passing, yesterday, what kind of elixir, what kind of juice do they get to drink? It's power. It's really power. It's like, this is going to help me. This is going to help me in the long run. This is going to not even, influence the nation, but irrationally, this is going to help me. This isn't selfish, not a good term like selfishness. That's the issue that, very few, if any, there's like 1% or less than 1% of the people in government are selfish. I mean, literally selfish. I mean, concerned with their own self-interest and morally upright. That's what selfishness means. Individualism. They'll mouth words like capitalism and stuff like that, but they don't really know what capitalism means, which is a social system that is predicated on protecting individual rights and property rights by a select government. So that's what the real meaning is. So they have to really, show themselves. DeSantis was a detractor. He said things against Trump all the time. But he got up on that stage and said, this is our best hope. This is all we got. Essentially, that's what I got from his speech. He's like, this is what we got. We voted him. This is his party. It should be the Trumplicans, Retrumplicans or something like that. Shouldn't even be Republicans anymore. He put in a different face. He put in a completely different face than he would have had. And like I said, he was cracking wise. He was issuing jokes. I thought it was a stand-up, time period. I thought a brick wall was gonna be in the back, and there was gonna be tables and chairs and people with drinks on them. Because he was doing a little bit of stand-up at the time. And I think he got a little bit more positive response than Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley did get a response. She got a few boos, but for the most part, she was applauded. But it wasn't as resounding, I think, as DeSantis. DeSantis was a little bit more resounding, from what I understood. I could be wrong, but that's what I think that was. And Nikki Haley's a very smart woman, very brainy, very thoughtful. DeSantis can be thoughtful, can be brainy on some issues, but for the most part, I think they did what they were supposed to do. I'm not even going to say whether it was good or bad. I'm just saying that's what they were supposed to do. Carry the party line. Carry down, whoever it was to get the Republican Party back in the White House. And see what happens with the Congress. See what happens with the Senate seats. See what happens with the House of Representatives. That's the main thing. Because Congress is actually the power. And the Supreme Court. Supreme Court and the Congress are actually the powers that be. The legislative and the judicial branches. The executive branch, it's cool, it's showy, they can do a few things, they can do, they can sign some bills, they can sign some things in the law. But for the most part, they're the chumps in the front, as Mr. Torrain has said. Yeah, they're the chumps in the front. Government really is about legislative and judicial powers, and executive branch. He gets to sit down and we get to enjoy. Oh my gosh, you're gonna vote for president, the highest office in the land, commander in chief. Oh my goodness, he's gonna protect our borders. He's gonna protect our individual rights. Not close. He doesn't care about your individual rights. Trump doesn't care about your individual rights. Are you kidding me? He all even knows what his individual rights are. He has no clue. He doesn't have any clue what they are. So my case is that he definitely doesn't have the wherewithal again to be president. We have the shortest memory supply memory in the world. We forget how terrible of a president he was. Just in the last gasps, when he was talking about bleach and the COVID-19 ending in the summer, when it didn't end until months after the summer. And he just had his whole rhetoric, all of his speeches, all the things that he said just gobbledygook and nonsense. So, the balance I said yesterday with Trump and Pence, with the cool-headed Pence and the Christian, the heavy Christian, very faithful kind of guy, and Trump, I guess you could say faithful. God bless, whatever. Who cares? He's not very faithful. He's not inclined to be a faithful person. He's not a part of that ilk. But Pence was, and Pence is really, but So the balance here is with Trump and Vance is age. And, they didn't talk about too much about Vance and Nikki Haley and DeSantis. They didn't say much about the vice president elect, I guess, not elect, but running in the campaign. I don't want to say elect yet. Let me stop and pause right there. But in the campaign, the vice president running in the Republican Party, I think that it is just so wicked. The game is nasty. The game is disgusting. It's all tore up. It's all tore up. It's a disgusting display of humanity. To have to kowtow and have to say you're endorsing this person even though you're completely against most of them, or if not all of their policies, all their politics, everything in that nature. That's what makes it very, scary. Is that you don't have the idea, you can't grasp the idea that you can, just say no, I'm not. I don't care who like. There's a few people like Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney was one of the early detractors. I think she had a few good things to say about Trump early on, but then she totally flipped on him and was completely against him. I thought, he was going to pick a woman, but I think he was smart not to, because I think the Republican Party is not really ready for a woman to be in power. I mean, there's women in power all the time for Democrats. Look at Kamala Harris. She's a breath away from the presidency. But other than that, they don't have a chance. So I thought they were entertaining for the most part. DeSantis especially. Nikki Haley hit upon her marks. She had a few stumbling points. She mumbled over a few words. But for the most part, she was very on message, on point. And definitely, it wasn't a debate, but she got the audience in her good graces. She expressed herself pretty wisely and pretty strongly, and had a great thought process to show who she was, what she was, and what she was about. And that's really all you can do. Excuse me. That's all you can do. And it's just a dirty game where you have to go back and forth. Like it's like, think about any other arena in the history of anything. There's people within your same company that they're saying like he's a dunderhead. He can't do anything right. He's terrible. Then you have to go up and say, oh well, he's wonderful. He's one of the greatest shining moments of this entire party, this entire company. I'm so glad that he's here. She's so wonderful, and behind the scenes, oh, she's terrible. She's a mess. She'll never amount to nothing. Like it's just apparent. It's clear that politics is just so nasty and just so mean and just awful. It really is. Politics is awful. But when it's done right, it's beautiful. Look at our founding fathers. They were politicians. A lot of them were politicians, first presidents. We're also businessmen. We're also statesmen. Also slave owners. Some of them, not all of them. Let's be sure on that. Let's be sure on that point. Not all the founding fathers were slave owners. Some of them were. But not all of them. Some people say, there's a lot of things that go on in hip hop, and people that, even the late great Civil the P, he said, the hypocrites in my pocket, I mean, hypocrites, maybe, but more so, great men, great thinkers, great leaders, geniuses in a political sense. That's what they were. And what's sad is that, America's original sin, slavery, had to come up, had to exist. That's sad, but it's just a fact. So you fast forward all the way to 2024, and you got a former president who wants to be president again. And what's up with the ear? The ear, like, I'm questioning that. I'm questioning that whole ear thing. That should have been taken off a few days ago. Maybe Monday, definitely Tuesday. Absolutely, it should be off by now, And it's huge. It's like a big bandage. It was just like right there. They could have sealed that up with super glue, as they show in the movies. They could have sealed that up with super glue, and it wouldn't have been a problem. But so that's I'm kidding. They don't have, there's more medically proficient ways of dealing with wounds like that than super glue. Even though they use that as like a MacGyver kind of way of bandaging themselves in TV and movies. So anyway, Nikki Haley, bless her heart. That's what she said, to Trump. Bless her heart. Bless her heart. She didn't want to say those things. I could tell she was like trying to hold back, not, trying to, I have to say these things because it is right, only because of my party, because of the Republican Party. That's all the reason why I'm saying this. Is the greatest hope we have to have him back, make America great again. I guess it's MAGA. It's not just MAGA. It's MAGA. Make America great again. Like, but it just is. This is just a dirty game. It's just nasty. It's just mean. It's a disgusting, disturbing kind of thing to play with, because you don't know what's going to come up from it. You don't know how it's going to manifest itself. How are you going to, listen to your mind? Listen to your heart. I don't regard the heart as anything but a glorified pump, a glorious pump, but it's been glorified. It's kind of like the word that's associated with heart, love. Love is so overused and abused that it means very little in certain circumstances. So they're kind of like tied together. The concept and the actual organ, and the concept behind the organ. So I don't want to say listen to your heart. Listen to your mind. Listen to your reason. Listen to your thoughts. Listen to that. And DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Haley and DeSantis, it just seemed like they didn't listen to their thoughts, but they had to. I don't know what backdoor deals they had. They might have gotten, a few dollars. This alleged. This is all alleged. Don't quote me on this as saying this actually happened, but there's some kind of kickback or some kind of something. They're promised within the context of the law and the political party. They're promised something. They gotta be in the running for some kind of office. Maybe she'll be part of the cabinet again. Maybe DeSantis will be part of the cabinet. I don't know, but it certainly appears as though that we have these politicians. That's the thing. That's one thing they said more from the the great film Forrest Gump. He was talking about Forrest back and legs. He was saying how his legs are fine, but his back is as crooked as a politician. Like, he didn't say as a Republican. He didn't say as a Democrat. He just said as a politician. Anybody that decides to go into this realm will either be corrupted or have some kind of way of trying not to be corrupted and lose every election that they do. It's like, that's the sad part about it. The most people with integrity and honesty, they're pushed to the wayside. Get out of here. They're too honest. They're too truthful. They make too much sense. I can't deal with them. But the real people, you know, the people that are elected, the people that are, put in office, they're just totally out of it. And speaking of totally out of it, Joe Biden, he's the ripe old age of, let me do my notes. I think he's 81. Yeah, he's 81. And there's a 94-year-old woman doing a movie, so she had to memorize a script and act, which is not easy. If you can convey that on the screen. I'm going to look it up right now. I'm looking it up right now. I think this is the right movie. It's called Thelma. Thelma Post is a 93-year-old grandmother who loses $10,000 to a con artist on the phone. With help from a friend and her motorized scooter, she soon embarks on a treacherous journey across Los Angeles to reclaim what was taken from her. Looking for her name is June Squibb. She's 94 years old. So it's not at all age. It really isn't. It depends on the competency. It depends on the thought patterns. It depends on your ability to think and ability to govern, to lead. I don't know if that's necessarily you can translate, acting into governing, because there's probably a lot more, moving parts in governing than acting. But I'm just giving you an example of somebody who's working, who's 13 years older than Biden, she was the lead actress. She had to, be the lead actress on a film. So that was just an aside. I just wanted to say that. I thought that was pretty interesting. I heard that this morning. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm just thinking about Biden at 94. I mean, that probably wouldn't be too pretty. It's not going to be a pretty sight. I have one person in here, so it's a lot different than yesterday. Yesterday it was a party. I was having a good time. It was up to like 3, 4, 7, 9, 12, 14, 20. It was the first time I ever had 20 people in a live at one time. So I respect that. But this is the slog. I have to keep going. I have to, feast or famine, no matter what. I have to keep going. Nikki Haley. And look at that. Nikki Haley, James David Vance, and Nick DeSantis all had criticisms for Donald Trump. And I think that's beautiful. That's a good thing. That they should be able to criticize them. But when they come back and say, positive things about him, it's like, okay, I can roll with that, I guess. I'm glad that people can change their minds. If you change your minds for the good, don't change your mind for the bad. Change your mind for virtue, not vice. That's what's most important. There's reports that say Nikki Haley completes her utter humiliation with RNC appearance. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was like, she was like gritting through her teeth. She was holding her nose. Donald Trump is the best, running person for the presidency. Like, she didn't say that verbatim or, as a quote, but that's essentially what her speech was about. She's definitely holding her nose. And this is from Politico. It says, Haley's strong endorsement of Trump doesn't mean she's full MAGA now. You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him, she said. Okay, well, that's called politics. You don't necessarily like a person's character. You don't necessarily like a person's, outward, intellectual, if he had an intellectual Trump leanings, then you could, possibly vote for this person. That's the scary thought. That's the scary part about all of this. It's that, you know, we have a leader in Trump who is hard to even say he's a leader, but he is a leader. He's the leader of the Republican Party, that's for sure. The Re-Trumplican Party. He's one of the best. He's definitely one of the best marketers of all time. Definitely marketing himself primarily. You know, in a not an arrogant, because arrogant is too good a word for him. A narcissistic way. He's definitely, you know, struck that chord of being completely narcissistic. So it's like Nikki Haley, DeSantis, you know, DeSantis talked about DEI, and you know how, you know, he had a great line. I don't remember the line was. I'm looking at, let me see if I can find it. The DEI originally stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. He said it stands for division, exclusion, and indoctrination. This guy is like, I agree with him on that, because I'm not for DEI. I'm for merit. I'm for creating something that you built. I'm for you going out and doing it, not because of the color of your skin or your background or your anything other than your content of your character. That's what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. Not judged by their skin color, but by the content of their character, or the capacity of your intellect in some cases. That's what's so important. Not DEI in the sense of, you know, oh, let's hire him because he's transgender. He was a woman before, now he's a man. Let's hire her because she's black. Let's hire her because she's white. Let's hire him because he's Mexican. Can he do the job? Can she do the job? Can she fulfill the tasks? Can he fulfill the role? Never mind, you know, the fact that he, you know, you bungled in his last placement in a work environment. Never mind that she didn't get good grades in school. Let's pick her because she's a yellow person. Let's pick her because she's red. Just because. Let's pick him because he's black. Don't care about what his credentials are. It doesn't matter. We have to include. We have to. I was about to say exclude. We have to, you know, have equity. We have to have diversity for diversity's sake. I'm not against diversity. There should be red, black, brown, yellow, black, white, yellow. I'm all for that, but only for the idea that it's going to take it to a point of understanding, of merit. That's all I'm fighting for. So DeSantis was making a joke, but it was pretty. He had some lines. I have to admit, he had some lines, but for the most part, you know, he was telling the truth. DEI is a horrible, terrible, nasty, disgusting way of dealing with people. It is awful. It is not a good thing. So we have to always, you know, expand and expound upon that. And then there's that cliche, which is not even true. Some cliches are true. Most cliches are true. That's why they're said over and over again. But this cliche is not true. An enemy of your enemy is your friend. No, you're the enemy of your enemy is your enemy. They're all enemies. Yeah. The enemy of your enemy is your friend is bunk. That's not true. So I just have to ask you, you know, what do you think about, you know, choosing your enemies or people that you are detractors of? Because everybody on that, from the vice president to DeSantis to Haley, they all. I keep on saying he's the vice president. He's not the vice president nominee. Excuse me, pardon me. The vice president nominee. These are slips like crazy. This is something. DeSantis said this in October of 2023. He goes off on Trump, says we don't need any more presidents who've lost the zip on their fastball. He said this just a few months ago. Just a few months ago. What was that? 9 months ago. Believe that, Playboy. Yeah, so got 2 people in here. I need 2 likes. Let me at least get those 2 likes. It's not jumping like the party was yesterday. But that's all right. I was having a good old time yesterday. I was like, yeah, we doing it. It was all JD Vance. Everybody wanted to talk. I guess wanted to know what had my ideas about JD Vance. But now I want to actually again, we go through politics as human beings, just in our relationships, but we're not officials. I mean, we're not voting on people in our house. I would assume, I would imagine there aren't elections in the house, or maybe there are elections in some households. People are appointed, people are elected into certain different positions within the household, or in I think it is more so in the work field. The work field it's not just the government. It's for private companies. They have a ideal on how things are run, how things are governed, and within a private company. And we saw that with Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company. If you can believe that. He was kicked out of his own company. Then he went on to make something that was like almost, I don't want to say a decoy, but like just like a different understanding of something. Next. When he had Next, it was just he said it was a very expensive black box. Like, people were saying that, and he knew what he was doing. He knew. I'm sure he knew what he was doing. He had the right idea about it. He had the right, understanding. But yeah, so he definitely knew what he was doing. I think he knew in his mind that he would go back to Apple after the board voted against him. Let's see, who is this? Tristan Vogel. Hi, Tristan Vogel. Have you donated $15 to my Cash App, my PayPal, or my Venmo? Which one works for you? Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo? So it's a weird thing. So I just want to ask you, what is it? What have you noticed in your job, whatever job you ever had? Whatever, it could be the lowest of the low. It could be just a dishwasher, and there's this politics and saying, I don't like this guy, but I gotta work with him. Just little politics like that. I mean, it's not the idea of politics necessarily as ascribed to, or in relation to government, but just human interaction. Politics has to go into it. I have people in my family I have to be very political with, We have, you know, a kind of a distance between each other. And we don't really see eye to eye on a lot of issues and a lot of things that go on in life, but we love each other. We have, you know, a definite bond between each other. But that's about it. You know, it's like I don't really deal with them that much. They don't really deal with me that much, and we go on living. It's like when we see each other at an event or something, it's like, oh, everything's all hunky-dory, everything's happy and upbeat and pretty cool and everything's nice. But at the same time, I'm looking at them and they're looking at me like, that's politics. But politics is the dirtiest game. It really is. You have to, you know, bridle. You have to hold on to your tongue. You have to say certain things, and they're all. That's another point too. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, their speeches were prepared. They were written. They didn't go off. You know, they didn't go off script. They were completely scripted. Everything that they said was bounced back off of a teleprompter. Or the teleprompter, you know, bounced every idea into their mouth. You know, whatever they said, it created a definite shift within whatever, you know, the idea of being partial to Mr. Trump. That's just really sad. That, you know, you have to be, you know, certain, like even Biden. Biden was saying all this stuff. He was saying, you know, he was slipping then. He was slipping 15 years ago, 16 years ago, during the presidential debate, you know, for the Democrats. He was talking about how, you know, Obama, what did he say? He was like, this is one of the first chances America gets of a clean, you know, articulate young man or black man or something like that. Like, what? What are you talking about? There's plenty of people. There was Reverend Jesse Jackson before him. What are you talking about? Yeah, so, but yeah, it's a dirty game. Politics is dirty. It's a filthy, filthy, dirty, nasty game that nobody wants to entangle themselves in. Nobody really wants to be a politician until you're like, all right, I'll do this. I really, it's gonna suck. It's gonna really suck, but I gotta do this. And I hope they do it for the right intention, right rationale, for the proper usage of office. Their ability to govern with great thought. Great thought. That's what I think is most important. The fact that, you know, so many people that don't realize how, like, even like I said, in their work life, if people that believe in some deity, you know, I'm an atheist, but people in church, there's politics in church. Why does he get to be the trustee? Why does she get to be the head usher? Why are they on the prayer team? They don't even know how to pray. What's going on here? What's happening? Politics. People in school, in the school board. There's politics there. And they have to be elected. Some positions have to be elected. So it's definitely politics. Definitely political. And I remember in my high school, my graduating year in 2006. I'm an old ass nigga. I'm old. I'm old. I'm decrepit. I'm on the porch yelling at the kids, "Get off my lawn! Get off my lawn!" Um, but yeah. So I think with the idea of of, of, of politics being so dirty, it's like I said with my Newark High School principal. Don't look him up. Don't look him up. But my principal, he was chastised. He was criticized for allowing this faith-based organization to come in and speak to the students. And he got heavily criticized for that. And I think it was the reason why it cost him his job. I think so. But politics, proper politics. I mean, it's a public school. This is a distinction. This is a separation of church and state. Sadly, there's a government school. I should correct myself. A government school. And this is the part of the state, part of the capitalist state. Not just the state of, specifically of Delaware, but the capital S state, the government. So I think he got knocked out of there because of that. And maybe some other things too, but politics, ladies and gentlemen, politics, boys and girls. That's the issue of the day. Politics. And how you have to be, she has to say things like you don't have to agree with him 100%. But you're still playing a vote. When you're placing a vote, you're going all in. You're saying that this person is, damn near perfect. Because this is the only chance I have to say what is true or not. So that's why I think it's so important to realize, to really digest, is the fact that people don't, see, people don't understand, or again, people see, but are not blind, but refuse to see. That's another thing from Ayn Rand, which is so profound. Not a blindness, but a refusal to see. Not an ignorance, but a refusal to know, as quoted by Ayn Rand. That's what happens with politics. It's like you can see, you're refusing to see. You have the ability, you have the capability to see, but you're just refusing to. That's happened so often in politics, in governance. Happens all the time. Happens to the most part. So when I look at Nikki Haley, I'm just like, I see what you're saying, girl. I got you. Because this is, I think anybody in politics has to do this. I'm trying to think of one. Liz Cheney comes to mind. Oh man. Okay, so, and we're talking about a convicted felon here. Like I said, if you were a short story writer, if you were a novelist, and you set out to write this and send it to the publisher, they would send it back. You will not get published. You will not. You try to write a screenplay, it will not get produced. It's too ridiculous. It's too crazy. Then an assassination attempt was like plot twist. Like, it's wild. So wild. So, so just checking on some different items. I think with Trump, it makes it different. It makes it like, I can understand, people very cynical, very, want to, use irrationality, want to use, little quips and marks and remarks. But the truth will always stand, no matter what happens. Truth will always stand. It will stand on its own. It will stand by itself. You don't have to prop it up. Truth will always stand by itself. And it's really sad that, we have to have somebody now. We have a convicted felon and a survivor of a assassination attempt. Even 50 Cent, he had a photo of Trump transposed over him. I think either himself or somebody else, and going with the song "Many Men." It talks about how people were trying to kill him. It's wild. It's some wild stuff. It's really crazy. It's super wild.
Yeah, I need to get in there. You've been in there a long time. You all right?
So I think that's possibly one of the challenges we face as not just Americans but as human beings. We have this sensibility that says that I don't like you, but I'm gonna vote for you anyway, kind of thing. Like I said, hold their nose, kind of thing. Yeah, I really can't stand your positioning. I can't stand what you say, but I think you have some good ideas for what you're gonna do for this country. For the individuals who live in it. That's what I think is gonna happen. I think it's really gonna happen, whether it's Biden or Trump. Depending on whatever the results are in November, or maybe even after November, we might have another fiasco with the election counting. And can I talk about that for a second? I'm going to talk about it in the future on the day, but Y2K, the election itself, Bill Clinton, and all that happened from late 99 to mid to late 2000 to 2001 was all nonsense. And America just, we were just, totally taken in. Oh my God, what if Y2K wipes out computers? And what about Bill Clinton? He had this whole, fiasco with this woman. And the election recount. What are we going to do about the election recount? And who's just rubbing their hands together? The late, terrible, horrible, disgusting Osama bin Laden and his cohorts. Just rubbing their hands together. Like, oh, America doesn't even know what they're talking about. It doesn't even know what they're saying. We'll show them. And I just had to say it as a side, just to think. Because remember, that was politicized. That was heavily politicized. 9/11, 2001 was heavily politicized. That was one of the first things that came out of every person that was at the RNC and the DNC and whatever speeches anyone says. September 11th, 2001, September 11th, on 9/11. That's all you heard. You don't hear it as much. We have a short, memory. We have a deficiency with our short-term or even long-term memory span. We have a terrible memory span. So that's one thing we have to look out for. We have to continue on fighting with the idea of making it possible for us to better understand ourselves. Because who's going to do it? Nobody. Even DeSantis says it. If not who? Us. If not when? Now. That's been quoted many times before. No, he's not the first person to say that, but he wanted to put that in his. They put that in his speech. So I mean, I was messed up on a question by Robert Naser. He asked me something about puppet masters. I was thinking about the puppet masters for the speech makers and the political strategists and stuff like that prop up the president and have him say what is supposed to be said. It's too goofy. It's too weird. It's too disturbing. Because they have to be on a level of saying, therefore, the president's saying this stuff, but at the same time, what if they have their own reservations? They can't say, well, I'm a terrible person, I'm a horrible, human being, but vote for me anyway. They can't even say that. That would be for Trump. And the same thing for Biden. I'm a decrepit old man, or I'm just a decrepit man that's losing his faculties every single day, and I shouldn't be running for president. I think I'm one of the few people that actually thinks that I should be running for president. I mean, that was a major hit when Trump tapped Vance, 39 years old versus what, Kamala Harris. What's Kamala Harris? I'm looking for my notes. Looking for her now. She's 59. So he's a good 29 years older.
Are you okay? I'm just fine, but I'm annoyed that you keep rushing me out of the bathroom and all. I don't do that to you. But it's not like there's no limit to how long a person uses the bathroom and does whatever they're doing. I don't do that to you. When you're in here, I just wait till you get done.
So I think it's powerful enough for us to realize what it really takes to be a rational human being. Somebody that can, start on their own, start on the track without understanding, exactly what's going to happen next. But that's what I think Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis have done. They've been able to say that they're for Trump all day, doesn't matter, no matter come what may, they're gonna be on Trump's side. And I'm sure if it's a big if Trump is reelected for a second non-consecutive term, then it will be something that will be, they'll still have, the detractions will surely come out once again. I'm sure of it. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley are either going to be mum about what Trump does or will do or may do, or, completely explicit in their detractions against him. So if you have any kind of understanding of, human nature, this is like human nature put on full blast under a microscope or whatever the case may be. It shows how people can have completely different ideals, have completely different ways, can speak against each other with such vitriol and vicious attitudes, and still one day say, hey, you know what? I said all that stuff. I didn't really mean it. forgive me, you know, I didn't want to, you know, put it out there like that. You know, it's all good, ha 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 ha. You know, kind of things like that. That's what I think is most important when it comes to this. That's what I think is most powerful when it comes down to all of this. So it's a sick, cold, dirty game. Dirty game. Politics. You have to do things that you just don't want to do, but you know you have to do it. I just heard it in Nikki. Nikki was just like, she had her speech prepared. It was coming off the teleprompter. But allegedly, I don't even know, was it a teleprompter? But she maybe had just a speech. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it was a teleprompter. She just displayed someone that was, you know, bereft of all energy, bereft of all vigor, you know, totally, you know, dependent upon, you know, her own sense of understanding. And that's what is really sad when you think about it. When you think about the capability she has, the brains that she has, how thoughtful she is, how I would have voted for Nikki Haley if she was a part of the Republican Party, not the Trumplican Party. That would have been special to me. That would have been well done. That would have been great. They could have achieved something beyond the cult of Trump. Because it's very cultish. That MAGA stuff is very cultish, to my understanding. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, it's not a cult. It's really just, okay. But it just has that feel to it. It has that distinctive kind of ideal to it. So today is definitely a different day than yesterday. I was experimenting. I think the experiment went with J.D. Vance, James David Vance, not with Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. So nothing, you know, comparatively speaking, it's night and day. It's completely different. I'm completely in a different mode. I must have got maybe 17 viewers this time. I had 773 viewers yesterday. Went up to 800 something. This is lucky. This is how it goes. Is it proper to say it's the luck of the draw? Is that even proper to say it? But the most people I had in here was 4. Most people I had in here yesterday was 20, and it compounds somehow. Like it only showed like 10 people viewing or 13 people viewing, and then it'll jump up. So I can't call it. It was an experiment. I was gonna talk about politics again. I'm gonna go back to 4 o'clock most likely, and do hip hop bullshit, and continue with that. So I thank you few people in broadcast land, and I'm waiting for rebroadcast land to really up the ante and to put the money where it needs to go. So I got one person that chimed in. That was Tristan Vogel. So I appreciate that person. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care.